So every visit to the park has a story. Sometimes it's an elusive illusion to where that coaster's right there in plain sight and you just couldn't ride. Either way, there's always a story behind it. Each clip in this video is going to be a story of a different coaster that remained elusive to me. Some of them I still haven't ridden, some of them it took me forever to ride, some of them I've only got one ride. Either way, it's always a challenge to get on something that's crazy that way. Do you have an elusive coaster? Comment below. I'm just curious which ones remained elusive to you guys. So of course I'm going to start off with the world's oldest operating roller coaster, Leap the Dips. Leap the Dips was quite the challenge for me to get on. It took me 3 visits to Lakemont Park in 3 separate seasons before I finally got the ride. And I'm so glad that I did because only time will tell what's going to happen with it this year. Next, I find myself at Six Flags New England. If you haven't been to this park, it's really far north and just kind of out of the way to get there in general. So if you do find yourself up here, hopefully you get an awesome day to ride everything. It was all about Wicked Cyclone for me when I came here. This was a very elusive coaster for me. It took me 3 visits to this park as well to finally get a ride on it. First time it was down for weather, second time it was just mechanically down, then the third time I finally got my ride on it, and I must say, this is definitely one of my favorite RMCs out there. It's just got a super fun layout. Now we find ourselves going to Kennywood. Kennywood is always a good time, especially here in Steelers country where you find Steel Curtain. Steel Curtain is your typical S&S. If you haven't ridden an S&S before, a lot of them seem like they're very temperamental and just never really ever wanting to work. So it literally took me 3 visits again to get to this park. One of them I probably shouldn't count since it was for their holiday, but the other 2, it was definitely just S&S problems, I must say. The third time was definitely a charm though, as that's when I finally got to ride it with my friend Eric, and both of us were beyond stoked to finally get on this crazy cool coaster. And I must say, it's definitely a very good time with all those really high inversions, and just the whole layout of this coaster in general is a super good time, and definitely another reason to visit Kennywood. If you haven't been to Kennywood already, do yourself a favor and go to this park, because it's definitely one of the hidden gems in Pennsylvania.
We're here in Six Flags Over Georgia, and I just subscribed to Pride Coaster Club, and you should too.
Nobody's here, nobody's listening, but shout out to the Twisted Cyclone crew. They are incredibly awesome, guys. Six Flags Over Georgia. Well, this wouldn't be my first time coming here with nobody at the park, as my very first visit was just that way. Had I driven here from California on that very trip, this was just one of the many parks on that coaster trip. I happened to miss it by 1 operating day, so I actually just went, drove underneath Awesome Goliath, and had a cool time just checking out the coasters, and waited another day to come back here, because every single coaster in this park remained elusive on that given day. But I'm very glad that I did get to come back eventually, because this is actually now my home Six Flags park now that I live in Florida. Who would have thought that I would be able to get here this many more times now after that 1 initial visit? But this isn't the only elusive coaster that was in this park. It's going to be the Kid Flash coaster as well. On my most recent visit to Holiday in the Park, it was just chillin', totally closed. Only time will tell when I get back to this park if I get to ride it again. Either way, we all know how Skyline operates. Nighthawk at Carowinds. What could I say that other than this coaster remained elusive to me? Not once, but twice, in 2 separate locations. As my first visit to CGA, I just couldn't ride it that day. So it was just a couple years later until I made it out to Carowinds and I finally got to ride this awesome Vekoma Flying Dutchman, which I'm so stoked that I did because it's a Vekoma Flying Dutchman and these are very underappreciated and very awesome flying coasters in so many Vekoma ways. Oh yeah, you can see the Skyrocket 2 is definitely not working today, guys. They have a little crane up there and they're fixing it. Why is it every time I come here Electric Eel's closed, SeaWorld? This is my 4th time coming to your park and it's closed again. Up close and personal with the Skyrocket 2 guys. They're up there having all kinds of fun. All kinds of fun. Skyrocket 2 time. Oh yeah. Well, Steel Eel at SeaWorld San Antonio remained elusive to me as it was down on the day that I was here for winds. When I say winds, it was about 11 miles an hour. I mean, that's pretty minimal when it comes to a windy day at the park. And definitely have ridden coasters in a lot higher winds than that. I mean, I get the park is worried about this old Morgan Valley, but honestly, I really did feel that was a bit excessive because you can see the trees aren't even blowing. Barely even blowing, and it just was a bit of a crazy thing on this given day, but it gives me another reason to come back to this awesome park. Zambezi Zinger at Worlds of Fun. Was this given day that much fun? It wasn't the Zambezi way. Either way, I still checked back and checked back and checked back again so many times on this given day just to try to get this awesome new Woody, but it didn't happen that way. Roar at everyone's favorite Six Flags park, Six Flags America, definitely remained elusive to me on my very first visit here, as the ride was just not operational, and then it wouldn't be operational again for 2 more visits for me to come after this, but I'm sure glad that I waited because they retracked a lot of this ride, made it a lot smoother and very much so more enjoyable from what I hear. Never got to experience before the retract, but you can only guess how that was. Sticking with Six Flags America and another Vekoma Flying Dutchman, we find ourselves at Batwing. Batwing is an incredible experience, which I'm very glad I finally got to ride, as this coaster is so different from the B&M flying coasters, being on your back, and this was just a really hard experience for me to finally get to ride it, as it took 2 visits to this awesome underappreciated park to be able to get to ride it, and it was many years in between those visits, but I'm very glad I finally got to ride it. Sesame Place in Pennsylvania, a park that I really feel a lot of people just seem to forget that it exists. It has a really cool, awesome gravity group here called Oscar's Wacky Taxi, which is definitely a very underappreciated coaster and one that many just don't speak of. Oscar's Wacky Taxi is great for kids, great for adults, great for coaster enthusiasts, and it's just a super good time. I mean, the train car's awesome in general, and who doesn't love Oscar the Grouch? She's definitely one of the best characters out of all of them. This park took me 2 visits to get here, and this park is kind of out of the way, but it is on the way to Great Adventure, so if you are going to Great Adventure and passing through Pennsylvania, definitely give it a stop because you'll be very happy you got to ride this amazing gravity group. El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure, everyone's favorite Woody in this park. It took me 3 visits to this incredible park to finally get to ride this amazing wooden coaster. As my first one, it was down because of weather. The second visit, it was mechanically down. Then the third time, I was stoked and I got to ride it so many times. And that's pretty much where most of this footage came from, was that actual trip where I got to ride this that many times. There's so many fun times. Then I got a whole bunch of crazy rides on it at nighttime because of its power hours. And this coaster really does live up to that wooden coaster hype of being an incredible experience, as well as just an amazing time in general. So if you find yourself headed out the Great Adventure, make sure you definitely give it a ride because it is so worth it in so many wooden coaster type of ways. Hoping to get back to Great Adventure this season because I would be so happy to ride this again because it's just that good in so many ways. Just like King the Caw right there. You can't go wrong with Caw either. And Zoom and Jaro Drop of Doom. Don't get me started. I'll go on about how awesome Great Adventure is all day long. The story of Max Force's existence. Always down. Them always chilling here behind the chain because Max Force isn't ready to be Max Forced. It must be a thing with me and S&S power coasters for them to remain elusive and just not let me ride them, as Max Force here at Six Flags Great America was quite elusive in its own way. It took 3 visits to this also very incredible Six Flags park to finally be able to get to ride this. The first one was a sporadic coaster trip where we headed up here to go have the most amazing fun time, because you can't go wrong with a crazy good Six Flags day. The second time was a 2-day trip. The first day of that, the ride was actually down for maintenance. The third day, we finally got to ride this, and it was our first coaster of the day, and I must say, that launch is so incredible, as it sounds like a gun's going off every time it takes off, and it's short, but this is definitely a super sweet ride in so many max force ways at a super incredible Six Flags park. Well, thank you guys for watching this Elusive coaster video. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe here on YouTube, as you never know what other random coaster videos I will make for you.